next we will have Aqualis Bio, our third team.
Okay. No rush. Awesome. Have you ever wondered why are salmon pink? If you didn't know, the pink color isn't produced by the salmon themselves. It actually comes from what they eat, which is astaxanthin. This is a small red pigmented molecule that is produced by algae. In the wild, astaxanthin is moved up the food chain as the algae are eaten by shrill and shrimp, which are shrimp and krill, which are then eaten by salmon. This is beneficial for the quality and the health of the salmon, and in humans has been shown to have positive effects on cancer, cardiovascular diseases, and neurodegenerative diseases. However, over 2/3 of the salmon that we eat isn't caught. It's actually raised on a farm, also known as aquaculture. But farm-raised salmon doesn't have access to the shrimp, krill, or algae available in the wild. Consequently, astaxanthin must be added to their feed for them to turn pink. This is a major burden for salmon farmers. In 2024, feed costs accounted for 35% of the total operation costs, up to 40% of which is astaxanthin alone. Desperate to cut costs, farmers previously attempted to eliminate astaxanthin from the feed to produce unpigmented salmon, which they called ice salmon, but this failed because consumers did not want to buy it. The perceived quality of the salmon depends on how it looks, which includes its color. The current solution is to add astaxanthin to the last 6 weeks of the salmon's life cycle so that it turns just pink enough while minimizing expenses but missing out on the positive benefits. This has been a problem since the 1970s when the aquaculture industry began. Initially, astaxanthin was extracted from natural products such as shrimp, but as salmon production increased, a consistent and larger supply was needed. The discovery of synthetic astaxanthin in the 1980s addressed these issues and has been the solution for the past 40 years now. However, synthetic astaxanthin is not approved for human use due to concerns regarding its safety and efficacy. Yet we eat it every time we buy farmed salmon because it's the only affordable option. Because of concerns regarding the lower quality of farmed salmon and the desire to move away from synthetic additives, researchers have been attempting to extract astaxanthin directly from the algae which produce it. However, this costs $7,000 per kilogram compared to the $2,000 per kilogram for synthetic, and this is already a major cost for farmers. The production costs for astaxanthin from algae are extremely high because of its complex life cycle, which is difficult to scale up and requires a lot of expensive infrastructure. Additionally, the astaxanthin yields are low and algae grow very slowly, so the only way to increase production is to increase the number of parallel workflows. On top of this, the extraction and purification process is expensive and causes significant product loss. But at the end of the day, we are what we eat. To increase access to high quality food, we have to start by increasing the quality of what we feed our animals. If we can find a way to provide salmon with natural astaxanthin throughout their whole life cycle, the results will be transformative. For example, research has shown that this reduces the incidence of disease to produce healthier salmon. It also increases the protein content to produce higher quality salmon, all while further minimizing our environmental footprint. As you can see, this is an extremely important problem to solve, but it is also an urgent one because as of right now, our oceans are fully exploited, but our population is still growing. Salmon are an integral source of protein and essential nutrients, but if we are to acquire more salmon by wild capture practices, this will cause overfishing, bycatch, and the destruction of aquatic ecosystems. Comparatively, salmon aquaculture is forging the way in sustainability. Compared to beef, pork, and poultry, it has the highest feed conversion ratio, meaning more meat is produced per kilogram of feed. It also has the lowest greenhouse gas emissions, the lowest land use, and water use. On top of all that, it's an integral component of the Canadian economy. 81% of the value generated by the aquaculture sector in 2024 was from farmed salmon alone. It contributed over $1.7 billion in GDP and provided over 13,000 jobs for Canadians. So as you can see, to ensure that Canada's growing population has access to consistent, high quality and sustainable food sources, it is time to revolutionize astaxanthin production for salmon aquaculture so that we can overcome the barriers this industry is facing. I'm Ellie, and this is Chuchi, and we are determined to solve this problem because we care about creating sustainable systems to support our future and improving food accessibility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ellie and Chuchi. And you can step this way so I'm not blocking you, sorry. We can start our Q&A. Ollie, are you ready this time to start? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Wow, that was shocking to hear that we're eating that synthetic ingredient that has not been approved. My question is around what else has been done to solve, when we're talking about that ingredient. Like you just talked about that synthetic ingredient, and then they're trying to extract it from live algae. Is that correct? Is there a reason that those are the only two options?
So astaxanthin is only produced by microorganisms like algae. The only other source of it is a single flowering plant, but it produces so little astaxanthin that to extract it from that plant is even less affordable than extracting it from algae. So there's a very limited source of organisms in which we can actually get it from.
Okay, interesting.
So maybe I missed it, but will the synthetic get approved at some point?
We don't know. It's currently approved, but only for use in aquaculture, and there has yet been any approval for it for human applications because there is a large interest in using it in pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, cosmetics, etc. But only natural astaxanthin is allowed to be used for these as of right now. I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but it's been this way for a long time, so I don't know that it will.
Okay, and so it's clear at the end. The problem you're looking to solve is to be able to produce more of the natural, like at scale, at lower cost. So when you look back over the last 5 to 10 years, what's the most material new bit of information you would have today to solve that problem that they didn't have 5 years ago?
I think we've come a long way in bioproduction methods over the past few years in terms of scaling up, but in terms of also optimizing production conditions and optimizing the organisms themselves for being able to more effectively produce novel compounds such as this.
And is there a lot of work being put today in the industry on actually solving this problem, or is the problem that nobody's really trying to solve?
No, there is a lot of research going right now that's going into bioproduction, different bioproduction methods for astaxanthin, because there's a lot of interest in it in aquaculture and in the other industries as well.
Drew, yeah.
Yeah. I had a question. You said that the current regime of feeding the salmon 6 weeks before harvesting misses the health benefits. Is there an explanation as to why that's less effective?
It's just not long enough. So out of the 2-year life cycle, if you're only providing it at the end when the salmon are fully grown and ready for harvest, they're missing out on the positive benefits as they're growing from young fish to fully mature ones. So if you can provide it throughout the whole life cycle, you're just broadening the range.
So salmon is actually very easy to get stressed, and astaxanthin is one of the most strong antioxidant. It's like 3,000 times more powerful than vitamin C. So it really help the salmon to reduce its stress. But however, if we only feed it the last 6 weeks compared to the whole 2-year life cycle, it really we are missing out all the health benefits.
So if the cost of the astaxanthin was to be reduced, would that result in farmers lowering their costs, or would they feed it through more of their life cycle?
We're hoping, we would ideally like to address both. If the cost is reduced, it could result in producing cheaper salmon if they maintain the same time frame. But if the cost is reduced enough, then it would be enough to theoretically provide it throughout the whole life cycle to also get all the other positive benefits. We're not entirely sure what will happen, but...
Sorry, I was just going to say we have time for one more question if anybody has a follow-up. No.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the one slide you talk about the importance of the color is what the consumer's looking for. It's the first time I've ever heard of that, Aston, however you pronounce it. So do I really care? Because a lot of times you just go in the grocery store and it looks pink, it looks fresh. I know it's farm versus.
So the question is,
versus
how
fresh
much
one.
do consumers,
How
would
much
consumers
do I
care?
really, do I really care? Like if
Okay.
you increase the health value of it 30%, but it's still the same color, and maybe that's just a marketing advantage some producers are going to have. Like,
Yeah, so past trials have shown that farmers can't sell the unpigmented salmon for the same price as pigmented salmon. And the problem with this as well, I think, comes from more of a marketing standpoint. Recent surveys have shown that there's approximately 50-50 split in people who are willing to buy aquaculture grown salmon versus farm-based salmon. Their main reasons being they're concerned about the quality of farm-raised salmon being significantly lower. So if you're now trying to convince these people that they should buy farm-raised salmon and it's good quality, but don't worry, it just looks completely different from what regular salmon looks like, I think that's going to be a bit of a hard push.
And we actually searched on social media. There are many posts that when people firstly saw that white salmon, they were like really scared.
Mostly because a lot of people also don't know that the pink color comes from something they eat. So when they find out that it has to be added to the salmon feed, they think this causes them to freak out. They're not sure. They don't. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think the word of the day is astaxanthin, right? So that's a new big word for all of us. Thank you so much to your team. Okay, now that we're 3 pitches in, it's time for our stretch break. I didn't really think this through, so I don't have like a guided stretch routine or anything. But if you want to take a minute or two to stretch, grab another sandwich or a cookie, you can do that, and we'll get started with our last 2 pitches in 2 minutes.